Alright, good morning. I am currently eastbound and down, heading to the auto show in downtown Toronto because I'm hoping the new Land Cruiser and the new Tacoma are going to be on display there, and I want to go check them out. Let's try to get down to the belly of the beast and let's see what we can find.
Police reported ahead.
I was able to come to Media Day last year as a guest of Hot Wheels because we had worked together on an article and they got me in. But this year is the first year that I've been able to get a media pass under my own brand, Canadian Gearhead. So it's kind of a proud moment for me. Alright guys, I found the new Land Cruiser and unfortunately it's on this little kind of turntable thing, so I don't think I can climb up there and go inside. But this appears to be a 1958 edition, or the first edition or whatever. My first impressions, I think I like it. It's about the size that I was thinking it was going to be. I've heard some people say it's kind of large. I would say this is pretty comparable to a 4Runner, to be honest. Check out these first edition mud flaps. Look at the brackets on these things. Guess they don't want these things flapping. So of course we're looking at a 2.4 turbocharged 4-cylinder on these. Love it or hate it, that's the way that Toyota is going with their trucks in the future here. But when you combine it with the hybrid, I think you can get past that because the performance numbers on these things are pretty incredible compared to the outgoing Toyota trucks. This one has some rock sliders on it. It looks like they're actually bolted to the frame, I think, too. Now it's hard, you know, for me, guys, whenever new vehicles come out, I always have a hard time with the styling of them. I don't like anything when it's brand new, but I do like this. I think this looks pretty good right out of the gate. The biggest thing that stands out for me, though, is always the car tires on these SUVs. I think it really messes with the looks of them, and these little car tires are just not doing it for me. I'm sure they're great for MPGs and great on the road and everything, but a vehicle like a Land Cruiser needs a beefy set of tires. So I think I'm really excited to see what the aftermarket is going to do with these things and how they're going to modify them suspension and wheel and tire wise. Up front, we've got, this is the round headlight edition. You can get these with like a more modern looking front end as well, so you can choose one or the other. We've got the Heritage grille up front with, of course, the Toyota Safety Sense and everything built inside. You got all the sensors inside there. So it's kind of a combination of a sort of a retro look with modern technology. I do like the fact that these things are rated to tow, I think, 6,000 pounds, which is pretty impressive for a smaller SUV. This one has the two-tone roof, and I think that's only available on some colors, not all of them. I think it's pretty safe to say that Terra is the hot color for the Toyota trucks this year. They've got all of them draped in this color. This is kind of a love it or hate it color, I think. It's sort of a brownish, reddish, orangish, and it's just a gloss color. There's no metallic or anything in it. This is on the Sequoia. And one thing, guys, if you're thinking about getting a vehicle with just gloss paint like this, you're going to want to think about how much you care about the condition of your paint, because when you have no metallic flakes in here, it hides nothing. And so you can see these are brand new auto show vehicles, and they got swirl marks noticeable in them. I noticed quite a few actually in the TRD Pro Tacoma. We'll get to that in a minute. Mind you, these auto show vehicles get touched and rubbed a lot, so there's something to say for that. But yeah, something to consider when you're looking at these just straight gloss colors that are getting so popular on the Toyota trucks. In my experience in detailing, Toyota vehicles tend to have fairly soft paint, which means they're also fairly easy to scratch. So one thing that's really interesting to note is we have the outgoing 5th gen 4Runner here. I don't know what we're going on here now. 25 years of the 5th gen? Come on. But the Land Cruiser over there, I believe, starts at $55,000 US. I'm not sure what the Canadian prices are. And these TRD Pro 5th gen 4Runners are also right around that same price point. And so the difference is, you know, the Land Cruiser, you're talking modern technology. You have the turbocharged 4-cylinder, the hybrid. I think it's an 8-speed transmission, I could be wrong, versus the old faithful here, the tried and true 5th gen 4Runner that we all know and love. The old school 4-liter V6, the old school 5-speed transmission, the opposite of high tech. And so these are the same size, the same price, but a little bit different in terms of what you get. They're both, I think, going to be probably equally good off-road in terms of their off-road capabilities. I'm not sure what the new Land Cruisers are like on-road, but I'm assuming they're pretty refined. If they're going to carry the Land Cruiser name, Toyota's going to hold them to a certain standard. And I mean, these 5th gen 4Runners, we are all very familiar with these, what you're getting with one of these. I don't believe there's very many changes for 2024 on this thing. Aside from, of course, this Terra color that, you know, again, love it or hate it. I don't think it's for me. Same old interior as before. You can get Apple CarPlay and stuff like that now, which I guess is an upgrade. Look at this, guys. Just shy of $74,000 for this exact 4Runner. And don't get me wrong, it's beautiful, I like it. Again, I would probably order it in a different color, but $74,000, and we know that the platform underneath is pretty much the same as my 4th gen. The 4-liter V6 in this thing is the same as the Tacoma that I drove here from 2006. Mind you, okay, they changed VVTi and stuff like that, whatever. I don't necessarily want to say this is the best looking 4Runner ever, but I think it might be. Something about this front end, when it first came out, I wasn't a big fan, but I have really grown to love the styling of these 5th gens. So what do you think, guys, for the money? Are you getting the 5th gen 4Runner, the tried and true, or are you going to take a gamble on the new Land Cruiser and check out the new technology? Let me know in the comments below what you think is the better buy. Alright, moving on to the other truck that I was excited to check out. This is the 4th generation Toyota Tacoma, and this is the Trail Hunter edition, which is very cool to see in person. I want to take a close-up look at this thing. Check out the front end on these. So we've got an LED light bar underneath the Heritage Toyota grille, which is interesting. But then we have rigid fog lights, which is not something you typically will see on a completely stock vehicle. And I don't know if I mentioned, but actually the Land Cruiser over there also has little small round rigid fog lights on it as well. So it's cool to see that Toyota is working with aftermarket manufacturers to kind of dial in their trucks, and they see what the buyers are doing with them and kind of getting out ahead of it and doing it for them before they even pick them up from the dealership, which is kind of cool. Of course, you're going to pay for it, but anyways, check out these new wheels. These are the Trail Hunter edition wheels, I guess. These aren't available on the non-Trail Hunter editions. You can see we also have upgraded upper control arms here that say Trail Hunter on them, with a really cool kind of a bronze, like a satin bronze finish on them. I'm not sure if those are required because of the ride height. You know how whenever we lift our Toyotas, we end up anything over 3 inches, we got to upgrade our upper control arms. So I'm not sure if that's an alignment thing, or if they're similar geometry and just a little bit beefier looking. Maybe it's more marketing, maybe it's more for strength. But the, whatever you call them, the Ram bar, whatever the Toyota version of the Ram bar is back here, it's not for me, guys. I don't know. I don't really see the purpose of it. I guess maybe you could mount some lighting to it or something, but again, we've got rock sliders on here that appears as though they are bolted right to the frame. So definitely more than just a running board. You don't have to worry about smashing these off if you're off-road. They should be able to take a bit of a beating. I believe these Trail Hunters have OME suspension on them, as opposed to the TRD Pros that run Fox suspension, which I think you can't go wrong with either. OME has been in the business for a long time. Check out the rear bumper on the Trail Hunter here. It's some big beefy tow hooks, and I don't know if this is a cutout here, if this is actually a higher clearance rear bumper, but I think it might be. It's an ARB bumper. Alright, moving on to the TRD Pro Tacoma, and I can already say that I am a very big fan of this truck. I think the styling and all of the stats on this thing override the fact that it's a little 4-cylinder now. I can get past it, I think. Again, if you look at the features and the stats of especially the hybrid 4-cylinder, I mean, what is it, 469 foot-pounds of torque? That's ridiculous for a small vehicle like this, and there is no Tacoma in the world that was making those kind of numbers, no matter how big the V6 was or anything. So I'm a big fan. I like that it has big fender flares on it right from the factory. I'm not sure about the finish of the paint on these. Again, of course, the detailer in me is coming out. This is a prototype model. This is not a production truck, so the fit and finish might be a little bit off, but it's got quite a bit of orange peel. It looks like a different kind of a texture than the actual paint on the bedside. These TRD wheels, very nice. I'm not sure if these ones are built by BBS like some of the other ones were, but it comes from the factory with a decent tire, decent wheels, Fox suspension. We got the dual exhaust on the back here. This one looks like it has motorized steps, I think, as opposed to like rock sliders or something like that. This is obviously the short box version and the double cab configuration, so you have the bigger back seat. Now here's where you see a huge improvement over the previous Tacomas. We've got the Heritage Toyota graphics on here with kind of red striping on the sides. We've got the red double stitching, soft touch on the dash here. Toyota's doing this whole fake carbon fiber thing, which, yeah, I guess it looks cool. It's not a supercar, it's an off-road truck, so that's some people are going to like that, some people are not. We have a gigantic screen that, you know, if you squint and you bend your head properly, you can actually see out the windshield. This is a really great looking interior. I really love the red stitching, all the TRD Pro graphics. We got TRD on the steering wheel, TRD Pro on the armrest. It's got the red center line on the steering wheel, and then it matches on the gear shift as well. That's originally meant for off-road driving, so you can always tell where the top of the steering wheel is when you're flailing your arms around completely out of control. One thing I'm not a fan of all these new Toyotas, I guess they all have it now, is the push-button start. And I know it's convenient, I get it, but it does make these vehicles easier to steal. And we do have a big problem with vehicles getting stolen right now in Ontario. People are duplicating the signal and they're driving away with your vehicle. So I would prefer to just have an old school key, but again, this is kind of the way of the future. Here are the infamous seat shocks. I don't know what this is really going to do in the real world. I don't know how many people are going to drive these trucks in a way that is so aggressive that they would require a suspension seat like a trophy truck. Again, I feel like this is kind of more marketing. It's more for the shock value to get people talking about this truck when it came out, and I think it worked. It's an interesting feature. I'm just not sure how usable it is, but it sure is cool looking. I really like the styling that Toyota came up with for the front end here though, and you'll see even nice little Easter eggs, little details like the TRD Pro logo is inside of the headlights. Different things that are going to make this stand out over a regular truck like that, like a TRD Off-Road, which by the way is also a nice truck. It's not quite as simple for the Yoda bros to just put a different grille on their Tacoma and make it look exactly like a TRD Pro. There's quite a few other features on this truck that really make it stand out from the regular models. So here we have a regular TRD Off-Road edition Tacoma, and this is going to be the one that you're more commonly going to see on the streets. I don't know about you, I don't see TRD Pros out in the wild that often. This is more the everyman's truck. And of course it's not quite as fancy and as exciting inside here. We don't have the red stitching, we don't have all the cool logos and stuff, but we do have still a really nice interior here. We have the big, I think it's a 12.3 inch screen or something. You'll see stuff like this. This isn't soft touch like it was in the higher level trucks. This is a little bit more harder materials. But overall, similar design, just maybe different in terms of the actual qualities of the materials and the feel of everything. The fender flares on these, this is more of a satin finish, and this is kind of a silly thing to be harping on and on about, but these are not going to show scratches and swirl marks like a gloss black fender flare will. So I'm curious to know if Toyota is going to actually have gloss black on the fender flares of the TRD Pro on the production truck, or if this is just a prototype thing, and maybe the production truck is going to have satin black fender flares, which I think would be a much more usable option, much more durable. Rear seat space, man. I couldn't even get my legs in there. Maybe this is something to be said about how far the front seats can actually go back in this truck, but I don't know, let me sit in the front and see how it fits. No, okay, so again guys, I'm 6'3" and I've got a bend in my arm. I wouldn't have the seat any further forward to drive this truck, personally, which means this rear seat space, the legroom that you just saw in that last shot, that's what you would have behind me if I was driving. So again guys, these Tacomas are definitely small inside. So if you have a larger family or a lot of fat friends, you're going to want to get a Tundra. You can see these TRD side steps actually have almost like a bed liner coating on them, which is going to help with keeping them from getting slippery and stuff. So what do you guys think? Is it worth it in terms of the Tacoma to shell out the extra money for the TRD Pro? Or do you get a TRD Off-Road like that white one and just outfit your own suspension and your own wheels and tires on it? The Off-Road even is 60,000 bucks, so I can't imagine what the Pro is going to cost you. And I think you could probably build something kind of similar for a lot less money. Alright, and moving on to the Tundra, this is the TRD Pro version of course, and once again we have this Terra color. And honestly, I think the more I look at it, the more I just don't like it. I think Toyota has had some really cool special colors for the TRD Pros in the past. If you're not familiar, every year they have like a special color that they put on all of the TRD Pros. So it's on the Tundra, the Tacoma, Sequoia, and the 4Runner here. And they do it 1 year only. And then typically you'll see that color moved across the line on the lower level models the following years and stuff. But the truck itself, I am a big fan of. I think these TRD Pro Tundras are really incredible trucks. If you're not a fan of turbocharged small displacement engines and hybrids and stuff like that, I'm afraid Toyota might not be going in the direction that is suited to you, because they're all going this direction. Big fan of the 5.7 and the older Tundras, and I'm going to try and get my buddy's Army Green TRD Pro on the channel soon. I want to do a review of that truck and kind of take you guys through it. I feel like it's the perfect Tundra. Now again, as I was saying, if you got more friends, family, whatever, you need a big back seat. Look at the size of this thing. The Tundra is what you want to go with. This is lots of seating space back here, lots of leg room. We've got the dual exhaust back here, twin tip, similar to the Tacoma. We have the cool little, I can't remember what the name of the design is on this stuff. It's almost like technical camo. We've got the TRD wheels on it, another great look. Fox suspension on these guys. We've got the matching fender flares. These trucks actually are wide enough to need Raptor lights, unlike your 3rd gen 4Runner. So these are legit. You'll see them up here, built in from Toyota. So the good news is, at least those of us that were putting them on our older trucks, we're not copying a Ford anymore. We're copying a newer Toyota. So you can sleep a little bit better at night knowing that. But yeah, these TRD Pros have different fender flares on them, and they're just wide enough to cause the truck to be wide enough to require the DOT lights, which is interesting because I'm pretty sure they need to have them on the rear then as well, and I don't know if they do on this truck. Do they? They do. Okay, see, check it out. How come nobody puts Raptor lights on the back of their vehicles if they're so cool? You ever seen somebody do that? I don't know. You want to start a trend? I'll let you guys steal my idea right now, and you don't even have to give me credit. Put Raptor lights on the back of your truck if you want to be cool and you want to be a trendsetter. So I don't believe there's any major changes on the new Tundra here for this year. Oh, GM's got a rooftop tent over there. Check that out. Ooh, that's actually a nice looking truck. Sorry, we're Toyota guys over here. Never mind. Ignore it. And here we have the Sequoia TRD Pro, which I am also a big fan of. And I don't believe there's any huge changes to this year either, which makes sense because they just came out last year. Essentially a Tundra from the front to about here, and then it turns to an SUV on the back, which there's a lot of duplicate parts that come from the Tundra that they're using on the Sequoia, which I think makes sense for business. You see the front end is basically the exact same as the Tundra. I think I covered the TRD Pro Sequoia quite a bit last year when it first came out. I was all giddy about it, so not much to talk about here. One thing I'm noticing though is it seems like the Tundra TRD Pro has a taller ride height up front than the Sequoia does. Are these running the same springs or the same coilovers up front? And maybe the Sequoia is a little heavier, so it rides a little lower. But I don't know, do you guys see that? That the front end of the Sequoia is squatted down a little bit. And then if you compare to the Tundra here, Tundra looks more like it's got kind of like a leveling kit in it. So are they the same suspension between the two trucks? I don't know. You know, with having only one baby, I still very much refuse to get a minivan. But if I was going to get one, this Sienna is beautiful. Look at the color on this. Whoa. Again, fully anti-minivan over here. Not getting one. I don't care if I got 17 kids. Not getting one. But don't tell anybody. I think this is actually pretty cool. So I asked you guys here on YouTube and also on Instagram what vehicle you wanted to see the most at the auto show. And aside from the Land Cruiser, this was a big popular one as well. The new GX, again, this is essentially the Lexus version of the Land Cruiser right over there. This is, I believe it's called the Overtrail Edition. This is the more off-road version. You end up with more aggressive tires. Basically what most of us would do with one of these if we were going to take it off-road. Different front end styling though. This is much more Lexus up front. And these have a different drivetrain than the Land Cruiser has as well. These are 6 cylinders. You can get a V6 in these. So here's the pricing on these. This one is starting... Sorry, this model is $106,000. Keep in mind, guys, this is Canadian, but it's definitely not cheap. You're getting a lot of vehicle for the money, though. And can we just take a moment to acknowledge how cool it is that Lexus saw what people were doing with the GX platform, and I guess the LX as well, and saw people modifying them and making them more off-road worthy, and they said, let's make one from the factory for everybody. How amazing is that? Lexus, of all companies, that is probably one of the least off-roady companies you can think of, and they came out with this. I think this is a pretty cool era that we're living in terms of these Toyota trucks. Regardless of whether you're against hybrids or turbochargers or whatever, they're coming out with some new ideas, and I think we should all be lucky that they're not electric at this point, let's be honest. I mean, seriously, a Lexus that comes from the factory with Toyo Open Countries, these are a diehard AT tire, and it's on a Lexus. This is wild. I do like the Lexus better than the Land Cruiser, I have to admit. I think especially the rear end styling, I really like the light bar across the back and everything. For over $100,000 though, are you getting a much better vehicle? I'm not so sure. I think it's interesting that they chose to have 6 cylinders on these and 4 cylinders on the Land Cruiser. I'm not sure what the future is going to hold, if there's going to be other engines available on both platforms or on both models, but I do think that on paper, this is the better vehicle, but when you factor in the price, it's a little bit hard to justify it. So one thing that's worth noting about this the Overtrail Lexus, this is not like a TRD Pro version of a Toyota, right? So we don't have any like fancy suspension here. I think it is different on the off-road model than the street models, but we don't have any Fox suspension or fancy upper control arms or anything like that. It's more of a wheel and tire package. It is more off-roady, but this isn't exactly meant to do jumps and stuff like that, right? It's not a TRD Pro. I think that might be a sort of a common misconception that this is like a Lexus TRD Pro, and it doesn't seem to be for me. We don't have like big, huge skid plates or more aggressive kind of high-speed off-road equipment on this thing. All right, guys, I think that's going to wrap it up for the Toyota booth here with me. What do you think? Would you get a new Land Cruiser? I think I definitely would. I'd be willing to give it a chance. Maybe not in this specific spec. I think I would do a different color and maybe the more modern front end. And then in terms of the 4Runner, I do love the 5th gen. I do love the TRD Pro, but for the price, again, you've seen my previous video about how a V8 4th gen is the way to go. If I am going to get a 5th gen, I think I'm getting an older one, like a 2015 or something. The only main difference is Apple CarPlay. Well, you can get an aftermarket head unit and save yourself a ton of money. Essentially, the trucks haven't really changed that much underneath since then, and you can get yourself a better bargain that way. So I feel like if you are in Camp 4Runner, the way to go is to get a used one. You know they're rock solid. You know they're reliable. It doesn't matter if you get one with some miles on it. I think that's probably the way to go. If it was a less reliable vehicle, I'd be saying, yeah, you got to shell out the money for a brand new one, but these are 4Runners. They're built in Japan. You don't have to worry about that. So let me know what you guys think. Frickin' Cybertruck. We got the Jeepers over here quite literally mall crawling and showing all the potential Jeep buyers what they can do on paved ground or stairs or hills. Oh, we got some detailers in the wild over here. Yeah, scrub that paint down, boy. Fill in all them squirrels. Sorry guys, I had to show you the Pagani booth here. I've never seen a Zonda before in real life, and holy cow. The details on these cars are absolutely incredible. They've got a couple Wyras here as well. Look at the carbon fiber weave on this thing. I mean, it's no TRD Pro, but it'll do. Oh boy, looks like I got quite a drive home ahead of me. I better get out of here. We got a bit of a storm system here, and dumped a bunch of snow on the city of Toronto. So I want to go home and hug my wife and my little boy. I'm done here. Let me know what your favorite vehicle was that I showed you today. I think for me, first place has got to be that Lexus GX, I think, is the number one. I think they did a really good job with that thing. But let me know. Comment down below, and I will catch you guys in the next video. See ya. Man, I could never live in this city, that's for dang sure. It's gonna take a while.